Well, hello. I thought today I would go over what I'll call the effects of the legacy trap. Well, I'm starting up a project with some other people like Mark Zotner, who's been on here before, and some other coworkers, just this kind of looking at, thinking about modernizing your legacy stuff from a managerial, even executive level. You know, we love to talk about executive stuff here on Tanzu Talk, whatever that means. It actually does mean something. What it means is people in the role who aren't the sort of individual contributors doing the things. They're the ones they're programming the organization, how the strategy is applied, sometimes even the business owners of things, and allocate cash. You know, they're managing the whole thing, hopefully in a nice, effective way that people like. Anyways, in the old software world, I think a major source of problem is your existing systems, your legacy systems, as people call them. Some people like to rename them as heritage systems, but anyhow, I prefer legacy. Now, I always think of legacy systems in a joking way. It's there's two ways. One, it's the software, the systems, the services that are making all the money currently. Typically, a legacy system is basically the core system that you have, the existing stuff you've used for years, the thing that runs the business. Now, further on, and this is adapted kind of from the old Michael Feathers definition of legacy code, which is code that does not have tests. And so therefore, you're afraid to change, which I like to build on that concept and say that legacy systems, legacy software is essentially software that you have to change for some reason, but you're afraid to change. Otherwise, if you were not afraid to change it, you would just call it your software. You don't call stuff that you're not afraid to change, that even you are just don't even think about it, your current stuff. You don't call that legacy. It's just your software. Now, let's go to, let me share some numbers backing up some stuff here, such as it is, and just some brief thinking. What I want to do here is I actually came across this morning, there was a post from a sponsored post, as for better or worse, the new stack does quite a bit nowadays. I think I'm going to be writing one soon about our conference DevOps Loop. Hey, are you interested in finding out what the current state of DevOps is and how new tools like Kubernetes and the Tanzu application platform and platforms as a service like the Tanzu application service? I just put those in there because I work here. But more importantly, new tools and concepts like GitOps and all containers and stuff like that, how that's helping deliver on the original excellent goals of DevOps. Well, we've got a good conference coming up, DevOps Loop, that is not at all as commercial as I just made it seem with Tanzu. I mean, obviously, we're interested in helping people out with their DevOps stuff, but we have all sorts of speakers, only a couple like myself and Joe Veda and a few others from Tanzu land. But some speakers we put together that are really going to go over what I think the current state of DevOps is, a few other non-DevOps related stuff like open source management, and how it's advanced, how it's gotten better. And there's a few talks I'm especially looking forward to that talk about how new tools and concepts like GitOps help out with DevOps. Anyways, when you're doing that sort of thing and other stuff, like you often are confronted with legacy stuff. So I wanted to just go over, kind of matching up some qualitative stuff to the quantitative sense that like legacy stuff is a problem. I mean, that really is, what I want to try to get across with this new work that I'm trying to start up. And I call this concept the legacy trap. Now, why is it a trap? Like all good traps, or like all traps? Usually, you don't really expect to encounter this thing until you are unfortunately inside of it, right? Just like our poor friend here, who looks kind of painful. He's about to discover. That's a great looking foot, by the way. About to discover the legacy trap on their own. I think a leg goes down a little bit more like that. It's kind of like a clown foot. But my kind of notion with this is that obviously the reason you have legacy stuff is you've been ignoring it and not really gardening it, not really making sure that it can be changed on a schedule that you want, that it doesn't cost too much, that it's not causing problems. And so it's a trap because people don't pay attention to it enough. And I think especially the managerial executive layer don't pay attention to it well. I don't think I'll be able to get around to it, but there's a great post. Let's see. if I can find it really quick just to show you. There's a good post. If you go to my my bookmarks here and you search, I've been bookmarking stuff with legacy trap, as you can see. And I think I want to think about this post a lot more. But if you search for, if you want to transform IT, start with finance. And there's a good, this is, when you read halfway through it, like a lot of advice about software, you realize that it's about software companies, vendors, not just enterprises. Although you can start to apply some of the same thinking, right? But there's a good, he starts with a good technical overview of how legacy stuff comes to be. Yep. And this is a good, so I would argue, let's get to this part, right? And in fact, why don't we just start with this? Oh, I turned off the iPad. Let's go back. Taking a screenshot. You can see Van, what's his face's cheese there. So let's take this as a screenshot and then kind of like highlight it a little bit. Delete that. Come back to our friend here. I think, where did I have the, what's behind the problem? So let's add this in here. This will be good. And then let's come back over here. Copy that. Don't have a lot of time for this, but here we are doing it. All right. So first, let's go to some sort of proof points, if you will. And that is, this is a slide that I use a lot nowadays, and it's based on some, I think it's some commissioned Forrester work from Forrester Consulting. You have to be very careful to say it's Forrester Consulting and not Forrester. Very different people. One of them does the kind of like, you can ask them to do research for you and use it for your lead genning. And the other one, is not like that. So you can see some collected figures, right? And some, the anecdote there. And I think, I think what I pay attention to most is no matter what people say about what their legacy stuff is, right? Like obviously, these figures here are good because it shows some awareness and blaming of technical debt, right? Especially this one, that it's something that they need to work with. But the effect is also important, that you have like just 50%. We can say 48% if you prefer. Like they haven't been able to really ship features in a year, right? So it's probably their process, their quote unquote culture, and the technologies they rely on. They don't have something like the Tanzu application service or the Tanzu application platform, which put in place allows them to more rapidly deploy their software because developers aren't spending time on configuration and stuff. And it's more reliable from an operations and security thing, just because you're limiting variability. Anyhow, enough of the mentioning products. I'll do that more as we talk. But, you can see that it is a real thing that you encounter out there. And it is indeed something anecdotally I encounter quite a bit, is how do we deal with our old systems? And then there's another definition here from this article from good old Ann Thomas. And I think this is pretty good too. It's pretty much like, my definition, which is that it's makes it difficult for organizations to change their applications to support changing business requirements. Boy, I wish we had a better term than changing business requirements and business value and all that, but what are you going to do? But exactly, it's like you want to change some aspect of your software, but you're afraid to, or it's difficult or whatever. And whatever that is something that needs to change, and often is a legacy thing, an old thing that, the easiest to understand thing is it might be running on a mainframe, so it's hard to figure out changing it. Or it could just be older software that people don't really know how it works, and it takes a long time to test it out and deal with it. It may not just be capable performance-wise of handling the load you want, or handling the kind of long-running transactions that are transactionless or whatever that you want. Whatever the case may be, it's not supporting the way you want to do things. Now, as mentioned, so I think, let's see, let's get to that OutSystem survey, which is pretty good. I forgot that they were a Netherlands company down there in Utrecht. It might be fun to go talk with them. But let me turn this around so you get a better. We can widen this up some more and adjust my big old head so I'm not eating up all that space. There we go. Let's make it scrappy, and I'm just going to overlay it. So this survey, where's their methodology? Let's zoom in on it. It's always good, as I like to tell you. Check out the methodology. This one seems fine. I mean, it's done by a vendor, right? And I've done many vendor-sponsored surveys, like work behind them. And on the other side, so there's always a little bit of a bias, if only the selection bias and the questions that you have, right? So obviously, OutSystems would not have published the survey if it was not a way to encourage you to work with them or at least talk with them. But reading through this, and in this case, I don't think it corrupts the survey at all, just like all the surveys I'm ever involved in. They are in no way corrupted by the commercial interests that are behind them. But you can see that's a pretty good number, 521 IT decision makers. Who knows what that means? I mean, I know what it means, but you can see they define enterprises. They define this by revenue, which is pretty good, and then commercial companies, which is smaller, and then small to medium businesses right there. So there you go. And then you've got some geographies. It looks like they don't really have LATAM, Latin America, and they've got India over here, Australia, and Singapore, but not China. But whatever, who cares? I mean, it's fine, right? But let's look at the part that connects with what I was saying is, so what problems, at least in this survey, does legacy stuff cause? And I think, what's causing the problem? Kind of, I was getting to, if we go back to our definition over here, you're afraid of changing stuff. Put it in my words. We'll say, we'll put mine here. Software you need to change, but you're afraid to change. It's fun to inject the idea of afraid and fear into a business conversation, because people, like, we're all professional people, not driven by fear or anything. But I think fear and the desire to get more money, all of those basic human emotions are probably what drive a lot more corporate stuff than people would admit. So, software you need to change, but you're afraid to change. So what causes that? At least according to this survey of 512 IT decision makers. Now, one thing that I always try to encourage, but we never do, is I would always love to get the raw data for these so you could do cuts, right? Our enterprise people different? Like, you could do various slices, but whatever. So this is an interesting, this is, again, to the bias of the vendor sponsoring it and the questions you ask. These are like different types of things, or there are some things that are different here than you would see from a company like ours, right? Who is trying to sell you a platform, and also a company there's another survey by Deloitte that I haven't looked in fully. If you go look at that legacy trap tag in my pin board, they would have different reasons as well. But so these are kind of fun because they're ones that I haven't necessarily encountered before. So the number one cause, I would look at the top three. Look at the percentages, right? These are all like so similar. Who knows what the error rate is, but they're all kind of equal. But, you can focus on, let's say we focus on like 29% and above. Like those are the kind of most interesting ones. The ones that you would say a third or more. And there's this weirdness of critical versus big problem, whatever. Challenges in serving new markets or segments. Now, does that cause, let's see, what are the two leading factors behind? I'm not sure this causes technical debt, but it certainly exposes that you have technical debt, because it goes back over to our definition, which is like you need to change the software. Often you need to change it because your market or whatever has changed, right? So your requirements change, which makes you realize that you have technical debt. So then let's go up here, outdated development languages and frameworks. Now, this is fun to pair up with the other one, too many development languages and frameworks. So I think this is really a lot of the heart if we were to choose these two. Let me see, can I persist that laser thing longer? Because it's kind of annoying that it doesn't last very long. Does it let me change it? No, it does not. Well, whatever. We'll just go with it. So you got frameworks, right? I didn't notice this till I was going over it, but this, arguably, the languages and the frameworks that you're using is what's causing the majority of your legacy stuff. And this matches up with the anecdotes I would have, right? You've got outdated frameworks, even if you're using something as great as the Spring framework. If you're using one that's several years old, like 5 or I don't know how long, then it's going to be harder to do new things, right? It's just not going to be supported in those old versions. A lot of the stuff, I'll pick my favorite thing, which is not a problem nowadays at all. But it used to be, if you were using an old version of whatever language or framework you were using, doing pagination, that is dividing up, when you select for page 2, next page, that might be something that you have to write on your own. And it's not really like embedded in the framework. As you get new frameworks, you don't even have to think about it. It's just in the framework. Or if you're looking to serve up mobile applications, the UIs for that may not be in the framework either. But in newer versions of the framework, they're in there. So it's much easier and faster to have a UI framework. And on and on and on. I was filing some healthcare reimbursement recently, and you can tell that the companies who are doing that either don't care or are beset by old frameworks that need to be updated so they can have better, more easier to use UIs. You've probably experienced this as well, right? So I think what I would conclude from this is that languages, I can't spell languages, and frameworks are the number one problem. Now, it may be that there's too many, and it just takes too much time to figure out like using them and adapting them, or it may be that they're too old, right? And this is funny, incorrect architectural decisions. Now, if we look at the rest of these, those are different. Security, it's funny that it's way down there. I'm sure if some people were to do this survey, they would make sure security was way up there. They would ask that in different ways. Now, this is a curious one, another interesting one that I don't think about very much, that probably is accurate as well, right? This is the way that people talk about this is we have old systems that people don't know how to use. And this is particularly true in mainframes and other systems. There's some other mainframe chart, I think from that Deloitte thing, that you could kind of string together with this. But I think that probably is actually a huge effect, is just skills lack. Skills dealing with your older systems or knowledge of it. And as people leave, obviously if someone's leaving for a better opportunity or because you got rid of them or because they don't like their job, it's not like they're going to spend a lot of effort documenting and brain dumping all the stuff they have. I mean, there's absolutely no motivation to do that unless you pay them some bonus. That would be fun. You pay them a leaving bonus, like we'll give you 10,000 more units of currency if we approve of the brain dump that you did when you leave. And if you don't want that, you don't get that bonus. That would be a fun motivation for brain dumping. So then there's also the known defects. This is basically what people talk about when it comes to the iron triangle, right? The iron triangle is people have the desire for software to be on budget, on schedule, and for quality, right? To have as few defects as possible. And here, just the accumulation of shipping bugs that you have in favor of those other two parts of the iron triangle, that adds up after a while, and you're just full of bugs that you have to deal with or write around. And if we take a strict meaning of defect, that's a bug, something that's not working properly, it's kind of hard to think about software being shipped that way, but it could also be a performance bug that if you follow SRE thinking, like it causes an acceptable amount of errors and losses, right? Like maybe there's some performance you can't meet, so at peak capacity, some people have to get dropped, and that's a defect. Instead of just being a straight up bug, like I'm in a 15-page workflow and there's a bug on page 8, and so everything just gets dumped. I mean, that kind of defect, hopefully you wouldn't ship with for too long. But it's just sort of like a lot of these, as you can see, let's do them, is kind of just like accepting a bad way of doing things and, not keeping it updated, which is exactly what legacy problems are. So I think that's a good sort of like overview of what's going on there. Now, let's look at next what did I like these two charts for? Yeah, so the other one to look at in these charts, and I'll have to track down some additional stuff to kind of, is cross-check the right word? To look at it is how much budget, and the survey PDF could do a lot better with titling, but that's okay. right? So this is, how do you spell budget? You have to go look at the text over here to find out what most of these charts are. So budget, we'll call it budget percentages. So, I'm most interested in the enterprise, which, if you remember, what was enterprise? Companies with more than 2.5 billion in annual revenue. I'm sure this is all self-identified, but that's fine. So you can see what percentage of the budget is spent on addressing technical debt. A huge chunk for enterprises compared to all the other ones, right? And running status quo operations, not really sure what that means, because that sounds like running the business, which is fine, right? Which is, again, larger for the enterprise. And innovating and building new capacity. I guess this has to add up to 100, right? You can see that it's 30% spent on that. So in one way, what you can say is that only 30% of budget is spent on doing new things, which generally for an enterprise, you kind of want that to be the case, right? Like whenever you're a large enough company, you're successful enough, if you have a good strategy, you don't want to have to try all the time and struggle and scrap. Like you really, the more you can go into autopilot mode and just reap the profits, fend off some competitions here on the margin and spend just a little bit of effort on that, the better your shareholder, your price is going to be, because you're going to be more stable and reliable. Like your life is going to be better. You're not going to have to strive and try. Now, if you're a company, all those tech companies and others who are basing their company valuation on that striving, then sure, you need to spend a lot more than 30%. Although I don't know, it'd be interesting to go see what Amazon spends on new things instead of these and other people. That's a good reminder. We'll see if I ever. Let's see. What do these look like? We'll call it thing. So you can see spending there, which is, I don't know, kind of interesting, but there is a huge amount spent on addressing technical debt, which that would be fun to dig in a little bit more, but that's a lot of money spent on that. Again, it could be that it's just like you're running the business and things like that. Now, let's get this. There's only a interesting thing here. It's dangerous, but it's fun to like look at sentiment, right? And so what we're looking at here is the like these opinions. And I kind of only care about enterprise, but it's something that we can manage effectively in the future. So, technical debt is a problem. And 37% of people say they could do it in the future. And something we are capable of addressing, 42%. So that's a large amount. Now it's, the cross thing you would want to be is like, so do these 42% also agree that they don't have a technical debt problem? And this is almost, I forget what bias it is. The bias of thinking you're more capable than you are. Is that Dunning Kubernetes or something? But there's probably a bit of an overconfidence here that people can actually address this. And it's probably what makes them not address it in the present and drives a little bit of, not probably the only thing, but drives some problems. But I don't really know necessarily what to do with that. Well, like I said, I don't think I'm going to have time to go over this tracking down cash flows and finance to figure out having, digital transformation problems. Again, it's written kind of the perspective of a software company, someone writing software as a product they're selling. But especially when it comes to a platform, there's a good train of thought here about why it's so hard to put a platform in place, right? And basically, it's just because it's a lot easier to get a bunch of quick wins. And even getting to where you are, you get quick wins. And then when you try to centralize on a platform, it seems like you have limitations and people work around it. Now, these two, I think, are ones that I'm going to think about a lot, because they go back to my original theory that it's a trap, in the sense that the people making decisions, finance, management, strategy, the executives of the company, they don't realize that just like a factory, just like your retail stores, just like your fleet of vehicles, just like anything, hopefully your people, you realize that if you're not constantly trying to improve and make them better, kind of following lean thinking, right? Capital lean thinking, that they're going to become legacy and degrade, and your stuff is going to slow down. But one of the things that is evidence of that, and of course, being a vendor who's trying to sell these platforms, I see this a lot, is that businesses often are just shocked, and they do the old pearl clutching, or I'm shocked that gambling's going on here. That taking care of your stuff is expensive, or I should say, isn't free. And so the idea of both time and money, right? I think it's important to say, in time. Well, it's more dramatic if you reverse it, right? Because of course it's money, right? In both money, oh yes, that's what we're writing about. And you say, and time, right? So it's the time and the priorities that you're not doing other things. Companies get upset about that, which causes this legacy problem, right? We don't want to stop shipping features so that we can fix legacy problems, so that we can build a platform which helps prevent legacy problems, so we can standardize on things, which slows down our ability to ship that we previously had, which was really a fake ability to ship because it wasn't long-term sustainable. And it just seems bonkers that we would do that. It's going to cost money to do that, and time as well. Well, speaking of, I'm now 2 minutes late to talk with Mark about settling out some more of what we're going to be doing here. But if you want to see some more stuff like this, shorter videos, longer ones, remember last episode, I had a video about figuring out your container strategy using a platform as a service or Kubernetes. But if you go to tanzutalk.com, you can see podcasts that we have. If you click on the videos link, you can see more videos. I'll in the show notes, perhaps I will, which you'll see listed in YouTube, or if you go to tanzutalk.com/videos, you can hunt down there, and I'll put a link to some of these things so you can check them out. If you're watching this in YouTube, they will be down below there. And with that, I'll see everyone next time. Bye bye.